I'm Jason Summer, and today we're with Kelly Hutchings, who's the founder of Treading the Boards, which is a regional performing arts review site, which is online on Facebook and YouTube at this time, correct?
Yes, correct.
And basically what we're doing is, since she reviews directors and performances and actors, today we're turning the tables and we're going to be asking her a few questions. And hopefully they won't be too difficult.
Hopefully.
Now you've been involved with theater for the better part of your life.
Uh-huh.
Now, I guess you probably have determined that this is probably now part of your core makeup as a person. At what point in your life did you realize this? And what was probably one of your most poignant memory of when you first started doing this type of activity?
Well, I started back, elementary school. First grade is the earliest I can remember doing a show. And I've just been doing it ever since. Now, my dad was military, so I moved constantly around. And I always found that theater was one way to kind of get me in with a group of people quickly and make some friends at a new duty station. So yes, it's very it is very much a core part of me and of who I've become. One of my most poignant memories is, it's actually here in Huntsville. I was doing a show called Much Ado About Nothing with Theater Huntsville. And for some odd reason, I had my cell phone with me right before going on stage. I know, it's a no-no, but I did it. But I'm glad I did, because my phone rang, and it was my mom. And I mean, literally, I had a minute before curtains up. And it was my mom. And she goes, "Kelly, I want you to talk to somebody." And I'm like, "Who, Mom? I'm getting ready to go on stage." All of a sudden, this voice comes on. "Hello, Kelly. Do you know who this is?" Now, I cannot do a William Shatner impersonation to save my life. But it was William Shatner calling me. And I just have to say, he told me to break a leg and to have a good show. And that was just really cool.
And how was the performance after that?
The performance was a really good performance, one that I think old Bill would have been happy with.
Good.
Yeah.
I find that fascinating. Now, you've been evidently on stage, and you've done your acting. What prompted you to kind of go to the other side of the theater community, where you're now conducting reviews and critiques of performing arts and doing the interviews with the local and regional talent?
Well, like I said, when I started theater, which was
you don't have to say
many years ago.
Keep it vague, right?
Theater was it was something special. It was something that the ladies got dressed up for. The men, got in their suits for. You went out to dinner beforehand, and it was an evening that was anticipated all week long. People really looked forward to going to the theater. They talked about it with their friends. I'm going to see, this show tonight, or, Friday night. And people got dressed up and really anticipated, the upcoming performance. And I've just noticed through the years that theater has been kind of dropping off a little bit. And the audiences, there's not as many people attending theaters any longer. And so our goal is to make audiences more aware of what's happening in the performing arts world, and to also help the performers kind of maybe up their game a little bit too, because sometimes performers don't always get on stage and have as much energy. It's kind of like going through the motion. No, I'm not saying anybody in particular, but it does happen. It's happened with me. I mean, I've done it. Just kind of gone through the motions, and audiences deserve more. So when performers know that somebody's coming to critique the show, they make sure that they stay on their toes. But likewise, we want to get the word out there of what's happening in the performing arts world, so people can make plans to come see shows more often, to know what's upcoming, and make the decisions. Well, I want to go see this show. I want to go see that show, and kind of find out a little bit about them. And that's where the critique comes in. Because in my critiques, I let people know a little bit about what the show's about, and that way people can make an informed decision as which show to go see.
And as an actor, I would have to say that the audience often informs the energy level as well, the audience participation. So you're also trying to get the word out to the population of the area that these events are going on.
Correct.
And giving them a taste.
Correct.
Of what these performances are about.
Yeah, we want to bring the audiences back into the theater. As you and I both know, both of us are actors. We know what it takes to put on a show. There's months of rehearsal, at least 3 months of rehearsal. And that's a lot of time. It's usually 3 nights a week. And that's a lot of time that actors and the tech people and directors put into making a show. So we want the audience to know that they are actually part of the show too. As we know, a good audience can make for a really good show. And a bad audience, and what I mean by bad audience is a silent audience. And now there are those audiences that are very silent that really do appreciate the show, but it does help us actors on stage when an audience gives us feedback during the show, such as laughing at jokes, or applauding for music, or applauding at the end of a scene, or a monologue. Especially, and Christopher Kelly Clark did a monologue back in January for a Theater Huntsville show that was so amazing that if it didn't bring you 1 to tears and 2 to your feet with applause, then you were sitting in your seat half dead, because it was that good. But as an actor doing something like that, we need that feedback. We feed off of the feedback. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So I want audiences to know that, don't be afraid to laugh. Don't be afraid to applaud, even if you're the only one. That's letting us actors know that we're doing our jobs. And the time that we've put into creating this character and putting together this show has been worth it. So it's kind of, this channel is for everybody, for actors and for the audience alike.
Absolutely. And whereas the audience needs, the potential audience would benefit from, a short review of what they may or may not be seeing, the actors, of course, are able to get an idea of how they're being perceived.
Yes.
Out, from a objective outside party opinion.
Right. And I feel like I can do that because I have done every aspect in theater. I've done sound, I've done lighting, I've done backstage, I've done costuming, makeup. Besides being on stage, I've also directed. So I appreciate hearing from a critic and from audience members what their perception of the show was.
Now, and as you mentioned, you've interviewed some directors, some the actors, some of the producers. What have you found has been your favorite part of this process of treading the boards thus far? Well,
I find it fascinating in talking with some of the actors already, how they prepare for a role. Phil Parker comes to mind. We asked him in his interview what he does, and surprisingly for Phil Parker, because he is so amazing and he's known in this area as just an amazing actor, he said he doesn't do a whole lot, which surprises me, but I do know of some actors, will wear a special pair of underwear for every performance, just because it's their lucky underwear. I myself will take a shot of scotch. Glenlivet 12-year-old, by the way.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. Before I go on stage, and it just kind of helps me focus and settle a little bit, because believe it or not, I still get nervous before I go on stage. And even after doing it for 40 some odd years, we'll just leave it at that.
I didn't ask.
But so that's been one of the most fascinating things, and talking with the different people and just finding out what their love of theater is.
Where do you see Treading the Boards finally going? As we mentioned earlier, you're on Facebook. You started with written reviews, and then you went to video, and then you started doing interviews, and now you're on YouTube.
Yeah.
Where do you see this Treading the Boards going? What is the ultimate vision for your site?
Well, first of all, Treading the Boards means to act, and it comes from an old, from long ago when theatrical groups, traveled from town to town, and they would just bring some boards with them, set the boards up on a little riser, and then produce their play. So that they were up on the riser so that they could be seen by a larger group of audience, and it was easily broken down to go on to the next town. So that's where Treading the Boards comes from. Not only do actors in plays tread the boards, there's dancers, there's dancing troupes, there's bands. All these different performing arts are on a stage with mostly wood. So that's why, we chose the name Treading the Boards. So what we see for our future, we started back in October, like you said, with just written reviews. And then we moved into doing a few video interviews and posting them on Facebook. And yes, now we've got, as of now, 5 videos up on YouTube. We would like to branch out into different forms of performing arts, such as going and interviewing bands, going in and interviewing dance troupes. Anything that has to do with the performing arts, we're interested in doing. So right now, we are located in Huntsville, Alabama. We would like to expand because even though Huntsville has a lot of theatrical groups and a lot of dance groups and several bands, here that are localized, things aren't always going on every weekend. So in order to keep our content up for our viewers, we would like to expand out into other towns, Nashville, Birmingham, Montgomery, Atlanta, Broadway, just throwing that out there.
You have to set the bar somewhere.
You have to set a bar somewhere, in the theatrical world, it is Broadway. So
now, you mentioned the regional and local events.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who's been paying attention can see that even though perhaps theater attendance is not as high as it's been, the theater activity is growing.
Theater activity is growing.
You've got out in Gunnersville, that's the backstage, the whole backstage.
The whole backstage.
Then you have, of course, Theater Huntsville, and you've got Wayne Miller's new group, the Evil Cheese Productions.
Yes.
And then you have, and then of course the Huntsville Community Chorus actually just put on a melodrama. So you have you've got all these organizations in Huntsville and the area. How do you see all of those productions and events being covered as they're apparently growing?
Well, are you talking about how Treading the Boards is going to be?
Okay,
well, that's a good question. We truly hope to be able to grow large enough to where we have that concern as to where we're going to go, or if there's 2 events in a weekend or several events in a weekend, what we're going to do. It may not be just me interviewing anymore. I think we should ask Jason here to possibly help us out some. I know he was not expecting that, y'all, I promise you. But, getting a few other people maybe involved with this process and going out there. Because the important thing for my husband and I who started this is to get the word out there of what's going on, what's happening in the local area. And making sure that people are not sitting home going, well, I don't have anything to do Friday night. It's let's watch Starsky and Hutch or whatever. There are plays there. I don't know why Starsky and Hutch just came out of my mind, but it did. I prefer Starsky and Hutch, but just to let people know what's happening in the area. And a lot of people like to go to YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the generational thing now. It's what people look to. So that's why we started the YouTube channel. So hopefully more people, it's a wider audience, will know what's happening in their area.
And speaking of the growing theater activity and performing arts activity in the area, and Turn the Board's desire to cover everything, where do you see Turn the Boards going? Where do you see as the vision for the company, for your site?
Well, again, a lot of subscribers. I can't say that word, subscribers. We need a lot of subscribers on YouTube. So please, if you're watching this video and you like this video and you want to see more content, there will be a little button up somewhere up here somewhere around this area.
Oh, that's nice.
That you will click on to subscribe. And that way you will, and hit the little bell too. I've been told that if you hit the little bell next to the subscribe button, that you'll be notified anytime Turn the Boards put something new up. So you'll be instantly aware of what's happening in your area.
That's the alert icon.
Yeah, there you go. See, I'm not a tech person, so that's why Anyway, that's the alert. Okay. So you want to be alerted as to what's going on. We need, people to subscribe to keep the channel going and to keep the content coming in. So please subscribe.
Well, Kelly, thank you so much for sitting with us tonight. And I am Jason Sommer, and Kelly Hutchings, founder of Turn the Boards. And remember, keep treading the boards. Have a good night.